There once was a ship that put to sea, and the name of the ship was privacy. The winds blew hard and fear dipped down below me, crypto boys blow. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto golden rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go. She'd not been but 2 years from shore when her value it began to soar. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take those bankers in tow. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto golden rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go. Na 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 na. Before the boat had hit the water, bankers came but never caught her. All in sync we hid and fought, and then they began to know. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto golden rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go. No chain was cut, no block was freed, and the captain's mind was not on greed, but he belonged to the pirate's creed and took those bankers in tow. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto golden rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go. For fear days to be no more, the crypto sank, then rose once more. Coins were lost, yet we do endure, and still that system did go. Soon may the pirate chain, when the system is done. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto golden rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pirate Weekly meeting. It's your host, Lutz. And so today we got a pretty cool project. I know it's the best exchange, decentralized exchange at the moment that they're offering. Welcome to the show. This is the are you the owner of Marmara Loops?
I am one of the founder. Yeah. It was a nice one, and it's sorry about my voice. I got the cold, so I try my best.
I'm having trouble hearing you. Hold on.
The founder, co-founder with the
So you're co-founder? You're not coming in very clearly.
My guy is based on some series. It started in 2010 to find out a social banking problem, which is something as you know. Banks are,
stop talking for a second, buddy. I think there's something wrong with your microphone. Am I right, guys?
with my microphone.
Yeah, it sounds a little weird.
Let me try from my mobile. Is it okay? So from my mobile, it might be better because I use the big PC here.
Yeah, try to figure out what's wrong with your microphone, man. It sounds. See if you could do something on your end. Oh, fuck.
It's the mobile now, or how is the voice now?
It's all right. We'll try. Yep. So tell me about it. So you're a co-founder, right? That's what I heard, I think. In a perfect world. Welcome back.
The voice?
How you doing?
Ah, okay. I can hear now.
Much better, much better.
Better, okay.
What's going on, guys?
What's up?
Okay.
So go ahead. Tell us about who you are and what Marmara is about. Just a brief description for our listeners.
So this project actually was started. We were trying to find a solution to banking system, which is based on the credit creation. As you know, I will just summarize briefly what is the problem with the banking system. As many people know, people actually do not understand our banking. According to Henry Ford, he says if people understand our banking and monetary system, for if they did, I believe there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning. This is a very, famous saying. And according to John Kenneth Galbraith, he says, the process by which banks create money is so simple that the mind is repelled. It's really, ridiculous. Money creation is really very simple. You go to a bank, you take a loan, and by signing a funny IOU document, bank creates both credit and deposit. That's it. It's very simple, but of course, the result is not funny. And if you look at the figures now, especially what the money created. By the way, according to Positive Money in UK, there's one institution making analysis. They say 97% of all money, fiat money created in the world, actually, by commercial banks. So how do they create? They simply, when someone goes to bank and take credit, they actually, the bank creates both credit and deposit. Then, of course, based on that compound interest, they are sucking us. And who is the actually greatest customer or borrower of those banks? They are governments. Governments, opposite to common understanding, are not the main source of money creation. They are just borrowers. And how do they borrow? Do they have our consent for that, borrow? No. They just simply borrow from the banks, and we pay with the taxes for the compound interest. And while we are actually yes.
Keep going. This is a little interesting. I'm not really a big fan of banks. I don't use them, but yep. Go ahead.
Yeah. So money creation is most of the money creation in the world is through or credit creation. It's not similar to, of course, coining. It is through credits. People go to banks and with the credit cards or with the mortgages or any stuff, they simply go to bank. Bank creates money and, of course, sucks with the interest. Now,
They're taking advantage of gluttony of people that want more than they have, right? So they dangle this carrot in front of their face, and
exactly.
people submit to it, and then once you submit to it, you're a slave.
Yeah, we have actually in 2008 there was one town story. This is very famous in Turkey and I guess in also in the world. Let me just talk about this town story. We were having television series. We had more than 30 programs in 2013. We started in 2013. In one program, actually, as I was describing this money with the town story. What happens with the town story? It is very funny. There's a town where people are all in debt to each other. They have no money. Why? Because they are living on the credits. And in this town, because there is no money, economy is off. They cannot run the economy. And there is one town hotel in actually there's a hotel in the town, and in that hotel, a tourist comes to hotel, says that, okay, I want to live if I like the room. And what is the price? It is $100. Okay, he pays. In the meantime, hotel keeper just goes to a butcher because he's in debt to butcher. He pays for it. And then butcher goes to another, farmer to pay for his debt for 100. And it keeps circulating like this. So all town people, like 6 people, are paying in debts to each other. Finally, it comes to a lady who is living in the hotel. She has also debt to hotel. She pays for that. And in the meantime, tourist comes down saying that I didn't like the hotel. Please give my money back. So he takes the money, $100 back. He goes away. So what happens? No one is in debt now. So this is something like that. When I talked about, yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah, this is a very famous in brain thesis or something about economy. I keep sharing time to time. When I actually talk about this story, because we are living in academy, in university, we don't usually use it because in government sector, post-dated checks are not used regularly. But especially business people, small business or big business people, they are using post-dated checks as credit instrument. They create similar to banks. They create the credits in real economy, but of course they have no interest charged. They use it like normal money, because if you go back to town story, what happens? All town now, town people are without debt, but of course because there is no interest on it, there's no problem. It doesn't destroy the economy in the town. So similarly, some people told me that, okay, let us discuss how we are doing this. I invited them into the university, and then I said, oh, this is amazing. You already found the solution. What happens there? Like in town story, we call it a credit loop now. If you look at the town story, it can go up to 1,000 people. So one person, initial person, we call it issuer of the credit. He or she starts credit, and then by passing that, by endorsement, of course, passing to the next one in the loop, they keep circulating the money, the credit. Of course, this was the idea. And what was the biggest problem? We made several workshops in the university with the business people. By the way, this is around 300 billion USD economy. As I said, in the beginning, I said in the world, 97% of money is created by the banks. But in Turkey, nearly half of the money created as credit, is done by people, ordinary people, business people. So this is a fantastic thing. And we made the search. When we made the search, I found that it is also available in the Western, culture. It is available in India now. Post-dated checks are regularly used, and it is 600 billion USD market in India. When I was searching with the business people, I asked, what is the biggest problem with this post-dated checks? The checks, it is very easy to understand. In Western culture, people are not used to having this kind of, post-dated checks. Because suppose you are in UK, if there's a check, you are the issuer of a check, you write a figure there, like 1,000 pounds, for example. Even if you write a date there after 1 year, if the person, the holder, takes the check to the bank, if there is money in your account, what happens? Bank pays for it. But in Turkey, in India, in cultures where it is treated as credit, the banks do not pay until the maturity date. So there is one big thing here. Suppose I buy a computer from you, you have no money at the moment. You don't go to bank to take the credit because they charge you interest. Instead of that, I know you. It is trust-based system. I know you that okay, you are very good with your debts, and there is no problem in that. So I trust you. I say okay, this is 1,000 USD computer, for example. You just buy it from me for how long? You say I can pay for it within 3 months. Okay, I say okay, and then you write a check to me with 3 months ahead with the maturity. So I can go to bank only after 3 months. You see, to get my 1,000 from you, of course. But what happens for 3 months, because business is going on, I just find anyone else. I say, okay, I have a check for 1,000 USD. I want to buy, for example, some monitors from my supplier. Several monitors. I use that 1,000 as money. So I just endorse it to the next person. What happens now? I use that actually. The money that you have created was used now to pay for my actually supplier. So the supplier is going until third month. People are using this, post-dated check, or it might be promissory note, of course. This like IOU document created by the banks, but without charging any interest, of course. It is acting as money. It is money created, as credit, same as by the banks, but it is based on peer-to-peer.
Is this how Marmara works? So you'll be able to give the power of lending to individual people? Is that what I'm gathering here?
Exactly. So you give the power of creating credits to individual persons. Any person can actually create credit. Now, the biggest problem here, when we made analysis around, it took around 1 year. We were discussing with James, of course, after we made a lot of workshops in the university for requirement specification. We discussed I discussed with James how we can solve this problem. The problem, first of all, there are several problems. One, the biggest problem is non-redemption. Because after third month, for example, you cannot pay for your debt. For example, it goes to seventh person. Okay, it works as money, but seventh person is the holder of the check. He goes to the bank, and it must be charged from your account. And because you have no money at that moment, because it is so, because of you are not a trustful person, it is because you have economical crisis, you cannot pay, because you also rely on post-dated checks, which you are actually using to get your payments from your customers, for example. That is why it is like dominoes, case. So the biggest problem is, if one fails, all people fail within the credit system. So individual power of credit creation, the biggest problem with that is non-redemption, defaulting, bouncing checks. If the check bounces, what happens? In Turkey, people are jailed, for example. In India, it is similar. In other Central Asian countries and other, let me say, Dubai or other Arab Gulf area, this is very common. People go to jail. This is very hard, penalty is very harsh.
That's not harsh, man. When people can't pay, you break their legs. But anyway.
Yeah. So we sit with James and how we can solve this problem. First of all, because credits are created as, IOU document, and they are not actually existing. They are existing in the records, actually. So this is a post-dated check are working as analog blockchain in Turkey, in India, for example. And I also have some information from Canada. Canada also has this post-dated check culture, and people are paying for the rent for 1 year, for example. The first month's rent, second month's rent. When people go to bank do not pay actually. Banks do not pay unless the maturity date is, is there. So this is how we started. And,
So is this totally reliant on post-dated checks and banks?
no, good question. We said we should remove the banks from here because no, you see, banks are doing this, and banks have no right to have any interest, any thing, benefit from those checks, because the business, shopping happens between two persons. Who are they? The first one is the issuer, who is creating the credit. The second one is the holder, who is actually giving the goods or services to the issuer. Why is the bank in there? Bank is not in the, needed. Bank or promissory note, for example, in promissory note in Turkey, it is also working as a, post-dated check. There is no bank, for example, in that as middleman. It happens directly between people. So we have, of course, this figure not known in Turkey because they are not recorded. But for checks, because they are starting their journey from the banks, they are, statistically recorded, and they follow the non-redemption rates or something. Sometimes this is a confusion because checks are coming to existence because of the bank, printed papers. People think that banks are actually having some benefit there. Banks do not get any benefit actually from those post-dated checks. Why?
Yeah, no, promise. It's a promissory note, and that dates back hundreds of years
Exactly.
before banks.
Yeah. So what happened? We said, for example, Turkish lira, for US dollar, for gold, for example, you can actually create a post-dated check style credit loop. We call it credit loop on blockchain. So you need some kind of collateralization. With the post-dated checks, collateralization is sometimes zero. In most cases, I can say it is zero because I trust you. You have no money at that moment. You cannot have any collateralization. What happens? I just know you. You are, well-known person. I just give my computer. I sell my computer, and I get the payment with the paper from you. So this is now a credit loop on blockchain. We said we should separate that, into two protocols. Once we said with James, we said the first protocol should be according to collateralization. If I, at the beginning, for example, lock my collateralization 100% on the blockchain, there is no non-redemption problem. There is no defaulting check. Why? Because, suppose I am now selling you some computer, and you will pay with MCL, for example, Marmara coin. What happens? Instead of, because it is 100% collateralized, you just lock your MCL on Marmara blockchain. It is exactly like let me say 10,000 MCL. But why do you use this one as credit loop instead of paying as cash immediately? Why should anyone? The result, the incentive is we give 3x staking power to people, to shoppers who are using the credit loops while they are shopping. Suppose, for example, you pay, for example, with 10,000 MCL to me as credit loop. Now, on blockchain, Marmara blockchain, I accept your payment with MCL for, let me say, 6 months. I got your now credit loop like check from you, 10,000. It is actually already collateralized because you have already 10,000 MCL, not like a credit creation. It is a credit, but it has 100% collateralization. So what happens? You lock your 10,000 into blockchain, Marmara blockchain. It has two UTXO, unspent transaction out sorry about technical detail. It is split into two parts, 5,000, 5,000. 5,000 for you, 5,000 for me. So we will have 3x staking for 5,000. Now, this is a customer-oriented system. For example, you are a customer. Instead of paying with cash, if you pay with, for example, credit loop, you will already, pay with the MCL. If it is cash, for example, you will just pay 10,000 MCL to me, and I will just give you computer. But you have no benefit after that. You just go back. But if you look it into blockchain for, let me say, 6 months or 1 year, what happens? For 1 year, because now 10,000 MCL is leaving you, but at the same time, it is not, because it is over on the blockchain, you can have 3x staking. So you earn MCL. This is first protocol. We call it 100% collateralization with the first protocol. There is no Turkish lira, there is no USD, there is no gold, there is no Komodo, Bitcoin, because you can create any amount in any type of asset, you can say. It might be fiat or it might be. There is no fiat, by the way. It will be settled down in the maturity date. If it is 1 year, it will go back like in the town story. Who is starting this? The hotel customer, the tourist is starting that one. So tourist is the issuer of the credit. Who is the first holder? It is actually the hotel keeper. So it is similar to town story. In the first protocol, it is running now very well. People are using that. And it is 100% collateralized. It is customer-oriented, as I said, because instead of paying with cash, you just pay with that as credit loop. You still earn. What happens with the holder? I am the holder. I said the payment is split on the blockchain. It is locked, of course, locked in the credit loop as 5,000, 5,000. You get 5,000 as benefit, and you make staking based on 5,000, 3x staking. I make 3x staking based on my split, which is 5,000. But if I endorse this credit loop to someone else to buy monitors, for example, then I endorse my 5,000 UTXO to the new holder. So I become endorser. So there might be, including endorsers, many endorsers, issuer and the last holder, we will have 1,000 in the loop. So it will act like money, but with giving power for 3x staking. We left the actual post-dated check and the promissory note case, which is credit creation. This is very fantastic. In this case, you have no money. I pay, for example, you want to pay 1,000, for example, USD now, not MCL. We are talking about USD. You say, you are saying that, okay, I can. Yeah, please. Yeah.
All right. So, but let's get you're getting too in depth with the technicals. I think people will research that on their own, but you sound like a technical person, as far as, explaining things. But how many people do you actually feel will use this system? Like how are you going to get people to use your crediting system? Like, do you have a plan for this? Or, I mean, people are not going to mysteriously find it, and then on top of it, well, I'll keep those questions for later. That's enough for now.
Yeah. How many people are in Turkey now? It is 300 billion. And there are millions of business people, like shopkeepers, hotel people, and as I said in town story, anyone in Turkey who is running a small shop is aware of this post-dated check. Therefore, we will actually, we have now Marmara connector. We will probably change the name to something to be known well by people like Marmara check or a similar thing. Now, this has a lot of users, and it is $1 trillion market only in Turkey and in India, I can say. Because in India, 700 billion, and it is only with the post-dated checks, not including promissory notes. So the market huge. The thing in the second actually protocol, let me mention the second protocol. In the first protocol, because it is depending on MCL only. So it is locked on Marmara blockchain. It is very easy. But in the second protocol, you can create money within any currency, fiat currency or asset. Like it might be even, you don't have Komodo, for example. You can say, or in R, for example, you don't have R at the moment. You can say, okay, I want to pay with R. How much, for example, for my computer? I say, okay, 1,000 R, for example, or 500 R. Okay, 500 R. Now, you don't have any R at the moment, for making this business because it is 0% collateralization. There's no need for collateralization. You are creating credit exactly same as bank does on the paper or on the electronic records. So how do we solve, of course, in this case, the non-redemption problem, the bouncing check problem, or if it is a promissory note, the defaulting problem? Now,
You cut their fingers off, bro. A finger for every month you're late.
Sorry?
I'm joking.
I couldn't hear. Yeah.
I said you cut their fingers off. One finger for every month you're late.
Uh-huh. What happens, actually, we have the maturity date. It is not extending after that certain maturity date. Suppose if you create a credit loop for 1 year, it actually, keeps circulating for 1 year. Many people until 1,000 notes. It might be in any currency, as I said. Suppose it is 1,000 USD. You say, I don't have any 1,000 USD. Do you trust me? I trust you. And then I actually give you my computer. I am selling my computer to you. So you have no money at the moment. You don't bother until what time? Until 1 year, the maturity date. Now I got my money because it is acting as money, 1,000 USD as record, of course, on Marmara blockchain. It is not MCL anymore. It is just record for what? For the credit. By the way, actually, we want to remove the banks here totally from the business. And what actually inspired us? I will remind all people here to make a research. It is well also in Western culture. Just look at Irish banking crisis, 1970. Between 1966 and 1976, for 10 years, there is a big banking crisis in Ireland. What happens? Banks are closed, and in one case, banks are closed for 6 months totally. There is no money, there is no credit creation by banks. Why? Because banks are closed. How do people solve the problem then? It is now very interesting. People similar to actually post-dated checks or promissory notes in districts, they start actually a person. For example, you are now because there is no bank or there is no collateralization place. What do you need in your district, in your area? I say, okay, I know you, but do you have any other? We call it our list. You know the word our list. If the check is not paid, this is actually sponsored by the second person or third person. They say that, okay, I pay 20% of that. They can specify that, or 30% or full amount of credit. If, for example, he cannot pay. So in the district in Ireland, when they start their similar to checks, they create papers, simple papers. And I say, okay, I give my computer to you. You sign it as issuer, but in your district, who is the person in charge in district? What do you call it? We have a term called muhtar, or the leader of that district, or a person who is experienced or who is the most trustful in your district area. So he signs, he just confirms that, okay, if you cannot pay 1,000 after 1 year, he will pay for this debt. There will be no problem. So they are actually discovering this, and they are using similar to post-data checks. There is no problem, you know. In 10 years' time, economy is not bad. This is very interesting. In articles, you can find in papers, in even Wikipedia, you can search Irish banking crisis 1970. You will find that economy is very good without banks. So people actually can work without banks. So how do we solve the problem now? Or how do we suggest in protocol 2 in Marmara, here credit loops, when you are creating credits without any collateralization, zero collateralization. You know, in DeFi projects, if you look at the DeFi projects, they have all over collateralization or full collateralization. But there is no single DeFi project in the world where there is zero collateralization, because it is credit creation. It needs trust, you know, because people will not accept any check or any credit from someone who is not trusting. That is why it is a trust-based system. So what we did with James, we said in the protocol 2, we should merge trust-based system, which is the nature of this post-data check and promissory note business, because no one will take credit from someone without trust, with the collateralization system on Marmara chain. So if there is collateralization, then you can still have 3x staking, but zero collateralization is possible in protocol 2. Now, instead of districts in Ireland, we have a concept called OBA now. What is OBA? I don't know. In Turkish tradition, going back to thousands of years in Central Asia, in Hungary, you know, because they migrated from Central Asia. Anyone, if you ask anyone in Central Asia, in, for example, Balkans, like Sarajevo, in Athens, for example, in Greece, because we have shared the same culture, this post-data checks or other promissory notes are going back to 5,000 years ago. Credit creation is actually not found by the banks. Banks are just suckers with the modern way of making us slaves. This was invented 5,000 years ago with the invention of the lettering, writing. We have on the records made of clays, when people made credits. The first numbers were actually the first invention regarding writing was about numerals. Why? Because people use that for creating credits. But of course, when they had discovered the interest, it became problem, like with the banking system now. So banking system and interest and all this stuff not belonging to 300 years only in the modern history. So
Right.
it is
So you're removing the middleman. You're removing the banks.
exactly. We are
Yeah,
removing the banks.
that's a great idea. And there's back before banks or even during banks, all right, on the streets, when you sign a promissory note to somebody for helping you, maybe you're going to lose your house and you need like 10 grand, and somebody you trust helps you. It's no different. The difference is that the bank will probably do worse to you than anybody out there. Now, there's a lot of mafia movies and there's a lot of things that make you think otherwise, and that's what they want to do. That's the whole point. Why it's in a lot of these movies, and they make us look bad. But then we're not bad. We help our families, right? We love everybody. If I lend money, I consider it lost already. If you lend it, it's going to be gone. So there's people that have it and there's people that don't, and that's how we help each other, right? You have a friend, he helps you,
Exactly.
and there's no middleman trying to take their cut or screwing you in multiple ways.
Exactly. So actually, banks should not be there. Why? Because Suppose you are making interest rates 0. What happens? The inflation is becoming very high. Why? Because banks do not need to have any kind of trust, with the people, because banks are just, creating money. But when you are creating money, for example, and when I'm making business with you, I know your personal debt. It is not that much. When banks create money, there is no limit to that. They can create like what Fed did, for example, in pandemic. Sorry, I pandemic area. What happened last year? What happened? Within 1 week, they decided to print. Of course, it is not on papers. They decided to create credits for $6.2 trillion. Can you do that? Can I do that? Can our community, city do that? No. No one can create $1 trillion on the electronic. So they have no limit. Nobody can make any limit on the banks. This is a problem. It is not actually related to any economy. It is not related to any production. That is why even if you make interest rates 0, it is actually hitting us because of the inflation. But
Right.
if there is
Right.
credit creation,
Just like the tail emissions on other coins, guys. Inflation's inflation. I don't care how you work it or how you want to play that game. But when you have a tail emissions, it's inflation. End of story.
yeah. Now, what do we want to solve here? The credit creation happens in the place, where, like I gave the case for, I want to sell you 1,000 USD computer because you have a credit in my brain for 1,000. If you say, for example, okay, I want to buy 10,000 USD computers from you. Okay, now you are still in my credit. But if you tell me, I want from you, computers for, let me say, $1 billion, I will think, how you will pay for it, for example. That is why if it happens, if the credit creation starts at the bottom, at the root level, not on the banking level. Banks are just, suckers in between. They shouldn't be in there. But if you have problems, bouncing problems, there should be someone in there. It is decentralized community. It is your tribe. It might be, your district. We call it OBA. That is why we call it OBA movement. We are trying to create some OBAs. They might be cooperatives. They might be eco villages. They might be any sort of independent bodies, real bodies of people who are living together and connected to some production, because you have a production capacity and people actually know each other very well. I have many friends, we made a lot of discussions, workshops with the business people. They really know each other. And if they fail because of especially economic crisis, because of banking system and other cases, government issues. Normally, if the economy goes well, they will have no problem. What is the percentage? Sorry, please don't forget. What is the non-redemption rate in Turkey with the post-dated checks? 2.5% only. What about defaulting credits by the banks? It is, I know some bankers, people who are working in the banks, they told me it is at least 10%. So what is it in India? 5% is the, bouncing, the rate for bouncing checks. And we just need to have a collateralization system in protocol 2, depending on the OBAs. We said, suppose now we are working in protocol 2. I say, okay, there is no money at the moment in your pocket. You just say, okay, 10,000. I will buy a computer from you for 10,000 USD. Okay, I say, I can give. But in this case, protocol 2, because it is USD, it is not MCL, it is not Komodo. It might be as credit, of course. I tell you that, okay, the system will force that the credit that you give should be actually confirmed by a decentralized community who is actually making some kind of avarice for you. That means if you cannot pay for it, then your community will say, okay, I will pay the debt for instead of him. So OBAs are actually like districts in Irish case. It might be villages, it might be eco-villages, it might be cooperatives, it might be even companies, some companies, it might be exchanges, well-known exchanges who are called OBAs. We call it, based on OBAs, we will have, you can say, of course, decentralized community for that. So people, we have, to become an OBA, we have a protocol to be signed by all OBAs. To become an OBA eligible in the system, you have to sign that protocol. What is that? It is saying that we, as OBA or decentralized body, are independent body, and we have our set of rules. And these are, of course, we use no GMO in our products. We don't allow artificial meat, for example. We don't allow, like banking system, any interest when you are creating credits. So you should have some, like in blockchain, code is law. You should code them, of course, not on the blockchain, but as notes, like you can just put on your website or something. Because I don't know exactly what is happening in your OBA. It is your business.
So let me understand these OBEs, so these are the lenders, I'm guessing, are the ones that take responsibility for the people borrowing money from the people. Now these OBEs, in return, what they're doing, they're basically buying up debt, right? So that the credit loops that they get will earn interest regularly anyway, so that the debt that they buy will earn more credits.
The thing is, the post-dated checks, promissory notes, do not work with the interest. It is against the nature of that. It doesn't work, really. It is working like any other currency, fiat currency. If any OBA is having some kind of interest charging, nobody will accept that. First of all, the OBA, let me say, is because you are in OBA, it is not like banking credit. I will give you, for example, my computer. I will give you my computer for 10,000, like 10 computers. Now you will pay me 10,000 USD. So you are the creator of the credit, but you have actually the responsibility. You have to pay for me because I have given you 10 computers. You owe me. How can you charge me interest? You cannot charge interest. It doesn't work with interest at all. So interest is not working with post-dated checks. If you tell, of course, this is happening. For example, if it is for 1 year, I can do that, for example, because you don't have money at the moment, like 10,000 computers. I can have some flexibility as producer, as seller. Okay, because you don't have all money now, instead of 10,000 for these computers, I will charge you like 10,200. And then you say, okay, I accept. But if you don't accept, it will not work. Now, it is only for creation of the credit. When
Right.
it comes
So what it comes down to is trust. The person has to. There's got to be trust, or else they don't get along.
Exactly. OBA or decentralized community is the trust point. So credit starts its journey, the first issuing, with the confirmation from OBA. And each OBA in Protocol 2 should have a staking pool, investment pool, like master nodes. Each OBA or decentralized community, like we have now in Turkey, in OBA movement, we have another Discord group. We have nearly 2,000 people, and they are trying to create their cooperatives and eco-villages in nearly in every city. We have some people now, because we want to replace the banking system. Instead of banks, you need to have decentralized communities. So they have their own rules, laws, anything, and they're all, by the way, against interest, because it doesn't work. They most of them actually know about the posted checks, and this is a common culture.
I understand what you're saying. We gotta. I know you gotta. Wow, you're like a machine, bro, coming for air. So you know, these OBEs, they're basically like nodes, right? Full nodes, and they get to, and they're basically the lenders, right? Like a lending, like a liquidity pool of sorts, right? Um,
Let me say something. Like, for example, you are in your OBA, I am in another. You are in OBA A, I am in OBA B. Now, because district, you can say district. You are living in district A, I am living in district B, like in Irish case. And now, 10,000 USD, for example, 10,000 USD, I can tell you that, okay, I am expecting a credit from you, but I want, 10% collateralization, and it will be in MCL, of course. It will be locked on blockchain, Marmara blockchain, and you will have your, as of course issuer, or our someone who is sponsoring, not sponsoring, helping in debt settlement. Actually, someone the signature of the person, like you know, in OBA you have the OBA, the leader of OBA, for example, the district, and there is someone, your friend, in that, or it might be your second wallet. By the way, it might be your second wallet. With that second wallet, you can have some collateralization. Of course, collateralization is good because you can benefit from threat staking. Now, what happens, for example, in OBA case, OBA, suppose you have 10,000 USD credit. In your OBA, there's someone like 20,000. And let me calculate the credits. It is 1 million, for example. It is not only you in your OBA. It is, let me say, 1 million USD credit volume.
do me a favor, replace that word OBA with district for everybody.
District, yeah, district. So in your district, the district, for example, when we look at all, it is of course available on blockchain. Everyone can see. We look at now, because it is trust-based. It is, it should be known to anyone. People have no problem in that. So they just look at actually the history of the credit. Now, in your district, what I do, I look at your district's investment pool. How much is available? The daily credit creation volume is 1 million USD. 10% of that should be actually in the blockchain fund. We will make rewriting of the code when it comes to, of course, we will have a fork. And with that fork, each district or master node, whatever you call it, they will have 10% of them as MCL. And they will be used actually when there is, bouncing in the credits, in every credit loop. At the end of maturity date, it is automatically charged from someone, from first of all you, why? Because you created the credit. If you have locked MCL, those locked MCL will go to whom? The last holder. It might be like 900 people in that credit loop. So you will settle first of all. If you cannot settle, the second person.
Let's try to slow this down a bit. So I do like it because it encourages people to be better people, right? So the trust comes from actual friendships, right? So if you get the loan,
Exactly.
it comes from a friendship of somebody because of your stature in the district. Now I understand what that freaking word means. And so these days, doesn't matter how bad you are, how much of a delinquent you are, anybody could follow tasks, right? So your credit is based, your trust is based on tasks in our current structure. Pay your bills on time.
Exactly.
Don't get arrested. That'll go on your credit report as well. Like all kinds of other factors that ruin your credit, where people could just they could be bad people and just follow all the rules, and and there's really no human side of it. It's more like a
Exactly.
robot. But
There is
this
no
way,
human
you
side
got
in
actually,
banking.
yeah,
Exactly.
this way you actually have some strong community members, real people saying, I back this guy up. This guy's a good guy. I'll back him up. Like, something along those lines, right?
Now, let me say something. It is called blacklisting. If, for example, you have a failure in paying your debts in posted checks, what happens in Turkey? I'm sure in India it is same. It is end of your business life. Nobody will accept any credit, any single check, any single promissory note from you. You are, you can, because nobody will trust. And we are
Right.
increasing the trust actually with the community, decentralized community. This has two good things, because with the decentralization of the money and with the privacy, this is are fantastic. For example, we are with the monetary system, we are creating decentralization. What we want to do here, we want to make decentralization of the people, the communities, because we are trying to associate, their productive capacities with the districts, with the families. Districts have, by the way, this OBA is different than district, because OBA has usually have family and more trustful relations, like villages. In villages, many people know
Right.
each other very well.
I understand that. In Italy, it's the same. Everybody knows everybody. It's not like
Exactly.
here in New York. Over here, everybody hates everybody. Uh, they try their best to ruin relationships here, and it's unfortunately it's encouraged by government with regulations. If there's nobody to call, if your grass is too long and there's nobody to call, they won't call anybody. They'll have to knock on your door and say, "Listen, you need help cutting your grass. Let's be friends." That don't happen, because now they have this scapegoat where they could call this phone number, and some tyrant will come down and tell you what to do. And then that's a relationship ruined, right? Now your neighbors don't
Exactly.
like you. I mean, it's a bad structure altogether. Now let's get into the coin real quick. How many coins are in existence? Where do we buy it? What Talk to me about the coin.
With the existence, actually, every year we made for the emission, we made a lot of discussions with James. The final was, of course, in the future, I don't know if it will be, of course, based on the consensus. I don't think it will change. Every year, it is 15 million. We have up to now 28 million or something, but only 6 million something is available as transferable. We call them normal coins, because in order to make staking, we have in staking part, it is 75% stakeable coin, as you know, only 25 POW, proof of work. So you can make mining, still mining with ASIC devices, but it's only 25%. For the 75%, there are two parts. One is 1x staking. It is like other ordinary DeFi systems. You just lock the coin and you can unlock it anytime. If you don't lock, you cannot stake. With the normal coins, if you transfer, like you send your coins to, let me say, to an exchange, central exchange or decentralized exchange, if it doesn't, of course, allow locking, then you cannot produce any single coin. But if you have your coins locked, now I think around 45% is in credit loops. 45% in credit loops. Yeah, let me say 30 million or something. That means they are locked. I don't know. Some of them are locked for 1 year. For example, I have some credit loops. I locked them, for example, 2 years. Even I have credit loops locked for 2 years. The good thing about the credit locked there, for example, take another DeFi system. What happens? Of course, in Verus, there is no need for locking for staking. But in Marmara, you have to lock for staking. If you want to unlock anytime, it is very simple. You can make it transferable. So it is out of circulation. If something is in, normal locked coin, we call it activated. If you activate your coins, it's around how much now? 8 or 9 million something out of 28 million.
Quick
It
question.
says that, but 3x staking coins, it is wonderful. I think there is no one in the world now. They are locked until like for example 1 year. If the maturity is after 1 year, nobody can lock it until that time. But what happens? Suppose I sold you my computer.
I understand. I understand where you're going with this. You don't have to fully explain it. So
Yeah.
if you put
If
the
I
money in,
endorse-
it's locked for that specific amount of time.
If I
There's no way to get it out.
I can still have 3x staking. So before actually unlocked for credit loops, of course, for 1 year, they are still locked, but they can be transferred. So they are transferable. And this is the best point. After the second wallet, if someone is transferring, endorsing credit, we can make sure that it is actually in the real economy. That's why we call it. It is the MCL is the first and only DeFi in the world to design to run in real economy. Why? Because suppose I want to become endorser. If I don't buy monitors, if you go back to example, if I endorse without getting any item, any real world item, I simply lose my staking. I lose my money. Nobody will like to lose money unless there is good or services. That is why after the second wallet, if somebody is endorsing, there is no meaning on that. Why? Because you simply losing 3x staking, you are actually transferring the third wallet, I can say. Who is the third wallet? The one who sells you some real world items. Actually, we want to make this one to be available and to be used. We want MCL production to be coinciding with the real world items. When of course we have this much and many people use it in the real economy.
I've got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
So why did you guys choose to do 75-25 split for a proof of work and proof of stake? Why that ratio?
Good. Very good question. We made discussions actually on that. I initially told James, can we do 100% with only credit loops and 1x for staking, 25% activated, 75% in credit loops, and he suggested for block especially stability in the early days. He said because there will not be many people who are doing credit loops. The blocks may not be moving. In early days, in the first day, for example, there was zero credit loop, zero credits in the credit loops because you must make it manually. And because we don't have, like we have Marmara connector now, anyone who without RPC calls, without knowing RPC calls, can use it, can actually set up the chain easily with single click, clicks and start staking and making credit loops. Making credit loops is very important. And of course, making credit loops now is on the Windows now. Our team has released. But most importantly, we have to be able to make credit loops on mobiles because business people use it when they are mobile. Suppose you go to market, you go to shop. If you want to use credit loops, then it must be on mobile. You cannot carry your PC with you. That is why we have in the roadmap now, after this Windows is settled now almost. We are making the we made the early release, many releases, and it is fine now. But with the mobile, we will start mobile. Why? Because business people require that. Otherwise, it is not easy for them to use. So this is the case. After we have the let me say districts or your tribes. I like the word tribe. You have your tribes, many tribes. You can have, of course, your tribe because this is universal system. We are starting from Turkey, but you can have the same because, as I said, with the Irish case, this can be used in any place. This is, credit creation at the root level. So you can have your decentralized communities in cities, for example, and if you have, of course, enough distance, hopefully we were talking with, thanks to Dream Team about decentralization of the internet. If you are close enough for these districts, you will have a wonderful world with decentralization. I think the world should be prepared for this because otherwise there's a crisis, as you know, with the cases. Now, from the vaccination things and from the climate things, actually, this is just agenda by this is my belief. I guess you are believing the same thing. They are putting an agenda on us, to make the world like a dystopia, like in the novels, in the movies. The only thing is to fight with this centralized age is to make communities based credit creation, because banksters came to this power, I always say, with credit creation. They can create any amount of money, credit. By the way, what is the GDP, world GDP today? It is around 80, it was now, I think, 2 years ago, 90 trillion USD. All, GDP of the world, including all nations, all countries. In 1 year, people make all kinds of shoppings, imports, exports, everything. What is the amount? 90 trillion. But how much money did they create in that banking system? To buy 15 Earths. There is big crisis. The one part is total dystopia, slavery by the banksters. The second part is decentralization with the money, with the energy production, with non-GMO products, with everything. So decentralization is not with, as you know, with the money. Money is the, of course, driving force, because with that creation they achieved that.
Value is driving force, not necessarily money.
Yeah.
Value, anything that has value.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. All right, guys. Let's open up the stage for questions. It's getting late. We have to do an internal meeting as well, guys. If you want to join in on the team, feel free to join in. Let's open up the
By the
stage.
way,
Raise your hands.
thanks very much for this invitation. It is
Wait.
wonderful.
Yeah, don't go anywhere. We're not
No,
kicking you out.
I am here. Don't worry.
We're not kicking you out. All right, so ask some question, guys. If you have any questions about this, this whole side banking system, decentralized banking system that puts the power in the people's hands, ask away. Now's the time. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes. Then I'm going to go make coffee. No questions, huh? Yeah, I know. He blew my mind, too.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I was like, holy macaroni, mamma mia. There's a lot more information than I thought I was going to get today.
It's a really interesting project. It's I like where your head is at and kind of where you're thinking and in the direction that you're going. So it's going to be pretty exciting to see how this develops.
Thanks very much.
And as far as privacy, like who could see the transactions? Like if I lend Mario, $5. Who's gonna are banks gonna be able to see it? Because we know just seeing it is a problem. The fact that they can see it, they'll come to your house, put a gun to your head, and why, and then stop you from doing it completely.
This is a wonderful, great question. Privacy is an individual right, and R is the best in the world for privacy. We know, and I know several years ago, when James was also involved in that R, this is wonderful, and in our community, in the early days, James had a surprise. And he said, because it was not on atomic text, MCL was not on atomic text. I don't know how many knows that. James said, I buy MCL for 1 hour. 1 MCL equal to 1 hour. And this was a great, fantastic thing for our community. He supported from the beginning, and he really understood the project. And, otherwise, this will not be possible. By the way, before coming to Komodo, let me say about this. We had several blockchains because we made workshops to solve this problem, especially non-redemption problem. There's consensus company nowadays. In Ethereum, they're getting some kind of billion, dollar or something. There is Jason. I made mention to Vitalik first. There is a big problem here. And can we solve this with Ethereum? Of course, it should not be token because we cannot make it with token. It should be coin. Vitalik did not care. And then from Ethereum side, they suggested Jason from Consensus Group. He came to our group and we made discussions. When we actually talk about our problems, because James said, okay, let us not force people for Komodo first. Let them understand the power of Komodo. So during workshops in the university, there were Ethereum people, and we listened to them. Okay, I said to them, like in wedding ceremony, if you want to talk about this, if you say, okay, we can do that in Ethereum, easily, then talk now. Otherwise, please keep silent until death. So we came to Komodo actually because of our vision, because we want to find a solution.
Because there's no tyrants in Komodo. That's why.
Yeah.
You came here.
Yeah. Now, privacy is an individual right. This is fantastic for Pirate Chain, but for Marmara Credit Loops, let me say, because it is trust based. In the early days, we discussed with even James to put, their KYC information on the blockchain. We made a survey, among business people. I told them, would you allow or would you be happy to put your citizen ID on blockchain so that it can be seen by anyone? They said no problem. It is good because otherwise, this is interesting. But of course, this is for trust-based part, and this is what the decentralization of the communities. It is understandable because, of course, you found a very interesting point. Several 15 minutes ago. That is very important. Banks do not know people. Banks do not know suffer of the people. I know some people who committed suicide. Why? Because they could not pay their debts. And I talked to some bank people. Some of them even left the banking sector. They said, one was crying. Another said, if you are in this business, you should forget about your emotions, because they don't know about the people. It is not like old slavery.
They don't want you to feel anymore. They're eliminating feeling. Hey guys, if you haven't seen the movie Equilibrium, I suggest you watch it.
I will. Thank you very much. So in the old slavery time, the masters knew the slaves, and they will actually they were not at least hungry at the end of the day, because they knew them, and they actually somehow gave their food and their sheltering and other stuff. But if someone cannot pay for the credit, what will happen? Bank, nobody knows about them. They will just know, they will not know about their suffering. So this trust-based system is doing that. I will suggest one book. It is actually the person is very nice person. He's talking about, because this is 100 years history. This has started in West. Fantastic.
Tell us about sorry about it. Tell us about the Marmara decks. That's a feature you haven't mentioned yet in the hour and a half you've been here. I know I use Marmara for the exchange. I use it all the time. It's amazing. Can you tell us about the actual? I think this decentralized exchange is even more anonymous than the irregular atomic DEX guys. So that's what made me look at it to begin with. Can you tell us?
Atomic DEX is very nice. Let me say, I go to shopping people, business people, especially from SMEs or something. Very, very easy. I tell them, okay, they say, we don't know anything about cryptos. You are telling something. Okay, we are doing on the papers. We know very well the promissory notes and other checks. But this is very difficult. How to get? And I just say, okay, go to Atomic DEX, just download, and then I send him some Komodo, some MCL, and then I say, okay, you just make atomic swap, so you are not depending on anyone. They say, oh, it is very easy. That is why decentralized exchange, the idea of decentralized exchange is wonderful. But of course, each tribe, each district, whatever you call, because they will have some kind of involvement. Because if you have a credit in Protocol 2, version 2, with zero collateralization, it should be confirmed by the let me say district, like a financial office or financial house or whatever you call it, because it will confirm every single district should have some kind of like small centralized exchange. But of course, if we can make it, I don't know, on Atomic DEX, it would be also fantastic. But of course, for that, we just wait. We are not hurrying. By the way, we are just trying to create the district structures. We don't want actually the price to go up immediately. Otherwise, what happens? Because they are creating they are trying to buy their small fields in villages or in cities. Try to establish cooperatives. If the cost of becoming a district or OBA very high, like $1, for example, for MCL, it would be very difficult for us. Why? Because let me say 100,000 MCL should be required, for example, from each district. Then now it is affordable to buy for them. But when it comes to that, like 100,000 USD, in terms of people in Turkey, this much is very high. 100,000 USD will be very high for them to be in the system. That is why I encourage them, especially to produce and keep them. And in the version 2, of course, once we have the enough price, we can afford to write second protocol, the fork. Let me say something with my discussion from my discussion with James. I asked 2 years ago, James, if R would be in Atomic DEX. He told me there is one I think there was one issue on GitHub, but nobody was interested. And he told me later on, he gave me the good news. He said, R will be on Atomic Dex. I said, you said, you know, it won't be in near future. He said, because of the pricing, you know, the value is understood more, then you can do, of course, a lot of stuff. So we leave this part actually for version 2 to have a value so that because we need to have a good amount of code changes or adding codes onto the system. That is why it is going well. It is like 5 Turkish kurush. Now it is about 15, 20 Turkish kurush. It is not the value is not down. It is good because otherwise it will discourage people. But if it goes very high immediately, it won't actually help us. This is the thing. So this is. Thank you very much for this opportunity. If there's another,
That's okay. Very, very cool. Thanks, guys. This is getting late. I don't like it to go over an hour typically. Any questions from the crowd? All right. It doesn't look like there's many questions, guys.
Thank you
We're gonna
very
end. Thank you for coming on, man. I wish I could pronounce your name.
Çetiner, you can say surname is Çetiner. Dr. Çetiner.
I'll call you doctor. It sounds better.
Okay.
The doctor is in the house.
Okay. Thank you very
So
much.
I no problem, brother. Thank you for coming. You sound very passionate about your project, and that's what's one of the most important factors is to have passionate people behind the project.
Thank you very much. And we have in the team also. They are also well in the team. They know because we always discuss our future. We always share because it is anyway open source, as you know. So this is good. And we have many in now from Marmara in R. I am very happy about that. From the first day anyway, because of James' existence in our, he has a lot of actually posts on Marmara in the old posts still available. So they have, we love Komodo projects. All projects in Komodo ecosystem, are very well. In the future, I hope they will all will be in very nice place. You know what attracted you? I should say this one. Sorry, just 2 minutes. While we were discussing Ethereum, Neo, or other things, what attracted me to Komodo? I saw James's, manifest about, decentralization, independence of the blockchain communities, and writing about atomic swaps. I said, "Oh, this is the guy," and
I said James. I said James is the guy about 9 years ago when I met James.
Oh, very wonderful.
James is just a genius. He's a genius.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's no other word that sums it up. So, all right, guys. There was a contest we were supposed to announce, Low Fat Milk. Before we end it, I want to make sure that gets done. Who won? Someone won a contest, a music contest, I think.
Yeah, I didn't know if Cax or if Tim was going to announce it. I don't know what the final call was on that. I think that was his show.
I think he fell asleep. He fell asleep on us, man. All good though. All right, so we'll have it announced in the announcements in Discord. So stay tentative. We'll also announce it in the tweets, guys. I don't know who won, so I'd tell you, but I have no idea. I have a lot of projects on my hand, so I choose not to follow many other ones just so I could dedicate myself to what I'm doing. All right, guys. Everybody, thanks for coming today. I hope you enjoyed Marmara Loops. Go to the website, check it out, learn about it. Privatizing lending, putting the power in your hands to lend to your neighbors and such. Don't depend on banks anymore. They're just stealing your money. And yeah, thanks everybody for showing up today. I love you all. This is Lutz signing out.
Thanks for joining us, Dr. Sedner.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye. See you.
There once was a ship that put to sea, and the name of the ship was privacy. The winds blew hard and fear dipped down, blow me, crypto boys blow. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto golden rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go. She not been but 2 years from shore when her value it began to soar. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take those bankers in tow. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto golden rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go. No chain was cut, no block was freed, and the captain's mind was not on greed, but he belonged to the pirates' creed and took those bankers in tow. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto golden rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go. For fiat days to be no more, the crypto sank, then rose once more. Coins were lost, yet we do endure, and still that system did go. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto golden rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go. As far as I've heard, the fight's still on, the chains don't cut, and the block's not gone. We pirates make our regular call, we're with the captain, the crew, and all.